for systems of higher education, and my background has a lot, I think I have a lot of experience in the UC system. I worked with the UCLA admissions before, with Cal State LA, Fresno State, now here at Porterville College. So seeing the whole overview of the whole systems, kind of has given me an understanding of how they function, the purpose, etc. So I know all of you probably attended college, you've gone to college, but it's some information for you to get an update so in case you encounter a student to let you know any changes that occurred or have occurred throughout the admissions process. So as you may know, we have four systems of higher education in California. We have the California Community Colleges, the CSU system, the UC, and of course the private universities. In terms of admissions, the community colleges, not so stringent, right? You need to be 18 years old or have a high school diploma to get in. And it's meant to either vocational purposes, if the student wants to pursue a short-term career or goal, or if they want to get enough units to be able to transfer to a four university, which Araceli will talk about, they can do it as well, and so forth. So not too much to it. No SAT scores, no PSAT scores, no ACT scores are required. It's just getting the students in and getting into the right classes. So for the California State University system, on the other hand, it goes a little step further. You have about 23 campuses across the whole state of California, including Fresno State, CSU Bakersfield, Cal Poly, and so forth. Whenever you see the acronym CSU, of course, it stands for California State University in such city. So for the California State University, what they require is normally the A through G requirements. And these are courses that are nowadays part of the curriculum in most high schools. Back a couple of years back, students had to make sure they were well informed about the A through G requirements, but much, like I said before, the curriculum nowadays of the high schools has aligned with the A through G requirements. So many of them are taken further, going through pathways and so forth. So the A through G courses, of course you have the SAT, which is popular here in the West Coast, and the ACT. And also looking at the grades the student has from 9th grade all the way through 11th grade. Senior year is not counted for admission purposes in terms of looking at the application, but of course when a student applies and the application is reviewed, the universities will ask normally for a transcript, a final transcript from the student in the high school. So they can actually rescind admissions if they see the student's grades fell below 2.0 GPA. Okay? So the minimum across the board for all the CSUs is a 2.0 GPA. Now, how realistic is it a student is going to get with a 2.0 to Cal Poly? Not at all, right? Or even now Fresno State, they're getting more selective and so forth. I don't know if you understand this or not, but now within a couple of years back, I would say maybe 5 years, all the CSUs, when the economic downturn took a hit, and all the CSUs took a hit in 2008 and so forth, then we had a lot of universities pulling back on their open enrollment, which means they had to become more impacted. Impaction really means that they're not only using their GPA or SAT scores, but they've raised up their requirements in the sense that nowadays, for example, for Fresno State, the minimum GPA normally is above a 3.0 to get in. Even though they do have requirements and do have a localized area which they work with. And this happens across all CSUs. Fresno State, the local area is going to be Fresno, Tulare County, even going south as Kern County. Okay? This is for high school students. For community college students, on the other hand, it's a little different. They have a more localized local area for their campus. The same goes with CSUB and so forth. Now we do have some open campuses. For example, they have Channel Islands is considered open still. CSUB is still considered open, which means when a student applies, if they have the minimum criteria to get in, they more likely will get into the campus. But most of the other ones, Fullerton, Long Beach, Cal Poly, Fresno, LA, and so forth, they're all impacted. So we urge students to, one, meet all the requirements and also apply on time. Making sure they do well not only the classes they're taking, but also the test scores, whether it's the SAT or the ACT. Okay, then of course, so recapping, CSU's SAT or test scores and GPA. Those are the two main factors that allow students to get in, right? There's no other criteria, unlike the UCs, which go a little step further. They look at the overall picture of the student. Not only the SAT, or ACT scores, GPA, from 9th all the way through 12th grade, A through G classes, but also looking at extracurricular activities, whether students involved with the community, with the church, with the school, and so forth. So they like looking at students who show leadership roles within their, whatever they're active with. So looking at all those things. So it's a more holistic review of the application. And besides that, they also take into account a personal statement, which is an essay. It's usually a 2-page essay, and they ask them several prompt questions. And based on how they perform in those questions, that also gives the reviewer an overall picture of the student. So essay, looking at scores, test scores, GPA, and overall activities they're involved with in high school. So that's for the high school students. Araceli will cover later on, but the UC is also required for transfer students. And then you have the private universities, which you have over 75 across the state of California. This includes such as USC, Stanford, Florida Marymount, First University, and so forth. They all vary in size. They all vary according to the requirements and so forth. So our recommendation for students was normally looking at not only the grade points, the SAT scores, and also kind of like mimicking what the UC wants. Because if schools such as Stanford or like USC, or even schools that are outside of the state that are private universities such as Harvard or whatever they want to go to, do look at all those different factors as well. So it's all point of making a student more competitive, but not only doing well academically, but also doing well as a well-rounded student in the community, making sure they're active and showing leadership. Okay? And then you have the last group, schools, which are your proprietary schools. And these are schools that are private, but they have investors. Not like your nonprofit schools, okay? Investors who actually get money from whatever student, how many students the schools have. And so, for example, University of Phoenix, what used to be ITT Tech, which is now closing, I don't know if you're aware of that, okay? Used to be Heald as well, or SJBC, and so forth. So those are proprietary schools that focus on specific areas. Maybe they offer bachelor's degrees, or they have for vocational or technical careers, okay? And they're a little more expensive, and I think John will touch bases on financial aid as well, talking about how much it costs to go to school and so forth, okay? And across those systems, you have the cost factor as well. The least expensive is community college. The most expensive is going to be the private universities. But if the student is low income, of course, they also get opportunities for scholarships and more fun financial aid and so forth, which John will cover in the future presentation. So I think that's my time, right? So that's kind of an overview of the admissions process. And usually for most CSUs and UCs, the admissions process starts October 1st. For the CSU system, it goes from October 1st all the way through November 30th. So students have 2 months to apply their senior year to apply for the CSU system. For the UC systems, November 1st all the way to November 30th, so that's 1 month. And it's ideally students start prepping their junior year for the SAT, or even their sophomore years taking the SAT or SAT. A lot of questions we used to get, for example, is how many times can I take those tests? Normally, the recommended time is 3 times, because simply what happens, a lot of universities will actually combine test scores to give you the highest overall score, where there is the reading and or the math, okay, or the writing portion. Some UCs require, depending on the major, they require subject tests. Whether if you're applying for like a biology major, they might want you to take a biology subject test, which is part of the SAT, and so forth. So I always tell students, talk to your counselor, make sure you're taking the right test and at the right time. It's all timing between the time they're freshmen all the way through their senior year. So right now, at this point in time, all students are applying, and also for the UCs, if I remember correctly, the personal statement was weighted heavily. So I remember I used to read maybe like 300 essays, going through the review process, and it's not just regurgitating what's in the application, but actually going more in depth of what the student has to offer. And that's what I used to recommend students. Make sure your essay is very well written. Have your, for example, your English teachers or somebody that knows how to write, check your essay for content. Not only grammatical, but also content. What does it have in there that gives information about you? So I think that's about it. Yes?
When are the letters of acceptance sent out?
For most universities are gonna depend. So most of them are sent out as early as December, or some of them even late till, I know some of the UCs even send it till April. So that varies.
The subject A exam, the students that are English, math, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
they used to require one in English and one in math, but they don't require that anymore?
They do. For the SAT, the reading component,
No, not the SAT,
Okay.
it's the subject,
the subject is not required anymore.
okay, so, but would it be advantageous for a student to take some of those if they happen to decide to go into a specific area?
Yes, it's not required, but recommended if a student wants to, how should I say, make themselves more competitive for a specific major they're applying to. Like I said before, if they're applying for a biological science major or something that they can show they have mastery of the subject at a certain level when they're applying to a competitive major at that campus. But overall, it's not required anymore for freshmen.
Yes, to start with, are you usually located at the college, or where do you usually are?
For me, I'm actually a new role now. So I'm program manager for SSP and Student Equity. SSP is Student Success Support Program. We're looking at
In
enrollment.
Barlow College?
Yeah, in the admissions office.
At Barlow College?
Mm-hmm, for a college,
Okay.
yes.
How, for instance, I did go to college in the United States. I only got my JD. I really don't know much about it. My husband used to be a counselor at Berkeley, so he knew how to guide his children.
Mhm.
I have a clientele that is Spanish monolingual. How accessible are you to give presentations to the Spanish-speaking community in Puerto Rico? And I'm going to tell you why. All those terms that you use are foreign to me.
Yeah, right.
My children have not been in college for the last 20 years, so. I know that the level of education of the majority of my clientele, which is about 80% Spanish monolingual, it's very limited. However, you have parents that are very much eager to have their children go to college. And many times the kids don't really care or not really there yet, but their parents are. So do you have an active program to be giving presentations on a regular basis? Let's say quarterly presentations to parents. I'm so concerned about losing so many of our kids because let's face it, the education they're getting is so poor. I got some information not too long ago. There are 4th or 6th graders that are reading at the second level.
Mhm.
It's scary to me. But I think that if we were to emphasize these kinds of programs, presentations to our community, to the parents in Spanish, it will help so much. Because their parents will be on their children's cases. And you want to go to work in the fields like me for the rest of your life? Or something to that effect. So tell me, what kind of a program you have to access this information or to give this information to the community?
Honestly, at PC, for targeting middle school students, we don't
Okay.
have a set program, but we're working with partnership with Fresno State's Talent Search Program, which is a program that's designed to target middle school students and going out there to community. I used to do this. For example, we used to have an event called College Making It Happen, and that one was targeting at the high school, middle schools, parent night, where all the parents come in, and it'll be both English and Spanish, and would provide this level of information, and not inundate them with so many acronyms, but just give them the overview, the whole system, kind of like what I did right now, just in layman's terms, and talk to them, okay, what opportunities your children have, what are the advantages of going to school, and paint to them not only by admissions, but how much potential they have after graduating in terms of opportunities, in terms of money earning opportunities, and so forth. So that was helpful, and hopefully, I mean, I work with our administration to bring something up for the community. Currently, we do go out to the high schools, but it's mainly targeting our 9th or even higher level students to get them prepped to come into PC. We'll definitely work on that.
Granted that they have to have a B average to get into most of the universities and colleges, but after that, what do they have to do to maintain their student status? Do they
At
have to
schools?
maintain it? Yeah, a grade average?
Most students have to maintain, universities have usually a 2.0 requirement. to maintain
All the way
satisfactory,
through.
all the way through, to maintain satisfactory academic progress. That's across for both the UCs and even the CSUs as well, all across. Depends on also if they join an honors program or something like that, then that particular honors or scholarship may have more stringent requirements. But overall, it's a 2.0.
You may have already responded to this question in some of your other, but specifically, I'm sort of a newcomer to the area. When you're talking to the students and they see Cal State Bakersfield or Fresno or PC here as the only available options, their world is that limited. Do you try to open up and say, hey, there's something besides that? There are these private schools that have good scholarship programs that would permit you to think about them. Do you try to expand the students'
Absolutely.
feelings about what's available?
I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a huge movement right now. I'm not taking too much time, but
No.
with student equity, right? Student equity has this component of transfer. We're trying to leverage students' knowledge base in terms of what opportunities they have besides local. Going to, and taking them, for example, to trips across, we're planning trips to take them to down south, GCLA.
Out of state, yeah.
And I think our counselors do a good job in actually letting them know what opportunities they have outside of their,
Who offers these trips?
it's the transfer center. And we also have, for example, the veteran center, we offer those type of trips. But also giving students presentations, and we also have, for example, college fairs. September 13th, they had a college fair in Visalia.
Okay.
You know, so you have reps coming down to this area and talking to them about.
And you actively
We push,
try to open
Yeah,
doors for these
absolutely,
kids.
yeah.
You don't just wait for
Yeah.
them to ask the question.
Yeah, and the reality for a lot of students too, I'll admit to this, is economic. So it's a
Well,
huge
and a lot
economic
of it is
factor.
emotional, they're just afraid to go.
Right,
Their parents don't want to let it go.
yeah. Okay, so I think I'll stop here and I'll have our next presenter go. And if, I'll be here again in case you have any questions. Thank you so much.
With Virginia in the financial aid office. So today I want to present financial aid. Well, what opportunities, Elmer was talking about the opportunities of attending college. And, you know, the big component is, well, you know what, in this area, maybe there's a depressed area, agricultural. How do we pay for this? How can we send our kids to colleges, whether it's local community colleges, the Cal State's UC, or also out of state, or they have this idea that I want to go to a particular school, but it's outside our area, it's outside the state. Well, there are ways that we can facilitate students, you know, pursuing their higher education. And one of the things is applying for financial aid. And financial aid started with the Higher Education Act that was passed in the 1960s. And so over time, it has morphed into opening the doors for everyone. Students of all walks of life, income, low income, middle income, high income. The Higher Education Act covers grants, work study to work on campus and get that general experience, and also the loan programs for depending on the cost of the education that the student wants to pursue. The application process has become really easy over time. The good thing is there's no cost to apply for financial aid. It's free. What we have is the free application for federal student aid. The student applies with just a single application. It's free. They're going to ask them a series of questions. Household size, how many people going to college within that household, and income. Just basic components. A student can list up to 10 schools on this application process. Now it's done online through the internet. They list these schools, the schools will get the information, they will calculate it, determine what they call a financial aid package. And the application this year, for the 17-18 school year, it starts on October the 1st. We're already doing these applications for the following year. It's tied into their applications for admissions. So this way, the students will get these award letters, and they can determine, well, School A is offering me $7,000 in aid. School B is offering me $10,000. School C is offering me $15,000, and so forth. And this way, they can help, speak and determine exactly with their parents. You know what? This is what a particular school is offering, and I think I can attend that school if I get, enrolled. The other thing with the financial aid application is grant money. And that's the easiest that we want to, schools, they offer the students these different financial aid packages. And the first one would be grants, free money that a student is not required to pay back. The FAFSA application will offer them a Pell Grant, and that's that large federal program that you hear about. Students applying for the Pell Grant. The Pell Grant, that's a term that students will become familiar with. The Pell Grant for the current year that I can speak to, the 16-17, right now we offer $5,700. That's free money that student does not have to pay back. Depending on their unit level, this $5,700, it's based on full-time status. 12 units or above, you get the maximum. If you're in 3/4 time, 9 to 11 units, and then we also pay students half-time if they're at least 6 to 8.5 units. Like Elmer says, there are some requirements. You just have to maintain a 2.0 GPA to be eligible. Every semester, you must maintain a 2.0 GPA and pass at least 67% of your classes. And if you meet that minimum, then your financial aid will be extended for the following semester. So that's the minimum, the federal minimum requirement is 2.0 GPA, 67%, and you're following your SAP progress. In addition to the Pell Grant, we also offer another program called SEOG. It's a supplemental grant program, and that pays at Portable College $500. Some schools will offer more money depending on their allocation for this grant program. Another type of program is the federal work study, where students get on-the-job experience. We have student mentors that work in our department. We have 4. They get an hourly wage. They work about maybe 10 to 15 hours a week. We work around their class schedule, and they just get good work experience that they may not have otherwise. The third program that is offered is the student loan program. Currently, Portable College does not offer that program right now. We offer the other 2. But the loan program is offered at many other institutions that help round out the student's financial aid package. And student loans is something that students are required to pay back, usually about 6 months after they finish their program. And again, this is a long-term repayment program. You could take 20, 25, maybe 30 years to pay back these student loans. And you've heard that there's $1 trillion in student loan debt out there. And that's actually true. And so the federal government and the schools are always devising and helping students to manage this student debt. There's student loan counselors at the schools. They have an entrance exam just to help them how to manage. They have tools. Portable College also has on our website tools how to manage their financial aid. And that's what the student will do. Us, $5,700 in grant money, and there's going to be a combination of these programs that are offered to students together. $5,700 in Pell Grant and SEOG work study. We also have some state programs, such as EOPS, and they offer services to students in the form of books. They also offer counseling, and the special program they offer here is meal cards. We know there's students that sometimes they have may not have sufficient funds to help them provide them with meals. And the EOPS program is something that Virginia started way back when they offered meal tickets that allows them to purchase food on campus at our cafeteria. They can, purchase breakfast, lunches, snacks, drinks. So there's a lot of programs that are offered to students in the form of financial aid. And all the student has to do is fill out the free application. You fill it out once a year. It's done online. Whatever schools they list gets the information. We establish this package and we send it out to the students. And this way they can make a determination exactly which college is best fit for them. The other thing is, Elmer mentioned, is we look at their SAP progress. We want to make sure that students have a good college experience. And we also have goals for them. The Pell Grant, a couple years ago, Congress established the lifetime. Your Pell Grant is good for what they call a Pell Lifetime, 600%. Student is eligible for financial aid for 6 years or 12 full-time semesters, whichever comes first. The Pell Grant is good all the way up through a bachelor's degree, the grant portion of it. So each semester they're using these percentages. And at the end of a school year, if they're here full-time, they use 100% of this lifetime eligibility. At the end of 6 years, they establish that lifetime. What the goal is for the federal government and the colleges is to have students come in, see a counselor established with a college educational study plan, where they can chart exactly what their progress is going to be and the goal. The goal is either transfer, a certificate, or a degree, and get them out into the workforce. If they want to go beyond this bachelor's degree, this Pell Grant, then the portion that is eligible for them would be just the loans. And that's what, at the Cal States and UCs and the private institutions or at proprietary, they will seek and establish eligibility for the students. Another thing we also want to talk about is, and the FAFSA is specifically for U.S. citizens or students that have a permanent residency. And this FAFSA application, it's a national application. And again, the eligibility is the same, all 50 states. Household size, number within a household, going to college, and income. Yes? Yes. Another thing that's also is for the state of California is a Board of Governors grant waiver for community colleges. Here in California, we have a program specifically for community colleges called a Board of Governors grant waiver, commonly referred to as a fee waiver. When students register for classes at, let's just say at Porterville College, they get assessed $46 a unit. A fee waiver program that's established through the FAFSA, if they have unmet school costs, is we will offer them a fee waiver, and we will actually pay for those registration fees. So that reduces that barrier of not having money to register for classes. So we're really proud of that program. We encourage students to do the FAFSA. Even low income, middle income, they may have sufficient unmet need that we can offer them this fee waiver program, and we will pay for those registration fees. There's no minimum on the units, nor is there a maximum. So we will pay for those registration fees. The only thing is they have to maintain SAP, in other words, maintain a 2.0 GPA and successfully pass their units. There's a new requirement coming up that started for the 2016-17, is the students have to meet an SAP. They could lose their eligibility. We want them to sign up and pass, yes?
I want to definition what an SAP means.
Oh, SAP is Student Academic Progress.
Okay.
Student Academic Progress, in other words, they're progressing academically each semester, they're meeting the minimum requirements, 2.0, 6-7%. And if they don't meet those minimum requirements, there's a possibility that they could lose the eligibility for the fee waiver program. There's a process where students can appeal that, but it's a process that they will go through the admissions. Yes, ma'am?
I was under the impression that the Pell Grant was available only to those students who came from depressed economic families. Is that not true?
No. The application process is open to anyone who wishes to apply.
Okay.
What happens is the U.S. Department of Ed, based on these needs analysis, these computations, will determine what they call an estimated family contribution. If each school will establish the school budget. This is, we have 5 categories: fees, books, personal expense, room and board, transportation. And that's all established as a school budget. The federal government will calculate the student's personal information on the FAFSA and determine this family contribution. And if that family contribution is lower than the school budget, then they may have eligibility for the grant program. So it's not necessarily for lower income. They've increased the eligibility for middle income families. They've removed some of the components that were traditionally asked in this application. Good thing that they've removed is family businesses. That used to go against students where there was assets in a family business. There was a value in a family business, and that was put under assets. That component was removed. So if you have a family business that has less than 100 employees, full-time employees, it's excluded. So then open the door for more middle-income families that have a small business. Another component that they removed was the value of the home. So let's just say you lived in the San Francisco area and you had a home that you bought 30 years ago. It's paid off, but it had a value of $1 million. But there was no debt because it was already paid off. That was used as part of the assets. So, and when they calculated, they included the value of that $1 million home. Or if you were down south and you lived in a nice, Pasadena, nice area, and you had a home that was also valued, at $900,000 and there was no debt. That was included in the family's calculation. Well, they went back under part of a reauthorization act. They removed that as well. So the value of your primary home is no longer used in the calculation. So we removed the business for family businesses. We removed the value of the home. We looked at just a couple of components. Household size, number within the household size going to college at least part-time, and the income. Another part that was removed are incomes, like